You're quite the little exhibit, aren't you?" That's what Sarah said to me right after dessert, as if I were a painting hanging in one of her curated hallways. I remember the fork paused halfway to my mouth, the caramel tart suddenly tasting like ash. Her voice was syrupy, her smile tight. The table laughed politely like she'd cracked a harmless joke. But I saw the way Jessie flinched, the way Amelia's eyes darted to her wineglass. "My name is Hayley. I grew up in a 2-bedroom house with peeling paint and a backyard that doubled as a makeshift mechanic shop for my brother's side hustle. I put myself through college with scholarships and a waitressing job that made my feet ache for years. I built my business from scratch, no loans, no handouts. I thought I knew how to handle people like Sarah. But that night I realised she wasn't just rich, she was practised. Dinner at the O'Connors' estate was formal, even though Jessie swore it would be casual. The kind of casual where the table had more forks than guests, and the chandelier above us looked like it cost more than my first apartment. I wore a navy dress, not designer but tasteful. I'd spent hours picking it out. Sarah greeted me with a once-over that lasted too long. Her lips pursed like she'd smelled something faintly unpleasant. "You look sweet," she said, then turned away before I could respond. Jessie squeezed my hand under the table as we sat. "Ignore her," he whispered. But ignoring Sarah was like ignoring a fire alarm. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "So, Hayley," she said after the first course, "what is it you do again? Something with candles?" "Custom home fragrances," I said, smiling. "We just signed a contract with a boutique hotel chain." "Ah," she said, eyes flicking to Jessie. "So entrepreneurial. That's adorable." Amelia laughed. "Mom, stop. You're making her blush." I wasn't. I don't blush easily. I just smiled and took a sip of wine. Sarah continued. "You know, in our family, we believe in protecting what we've built. Legacy, after all, takes generations." Jessie cleared his throat. "Mom, no, no," she said, waving him off. "It's important, which is why we've prepared a small formality for you, Hayley. Just a prenup, nothing dramatic. It simply ensures that the family assets remain secure." I looked at Jessie. He avoided my eyes. "It's standard," he said. "Everyone does it." I nodded slowly. "Of course." Sarah leaned in slightly. "It protects our family. You understand, dear." I smiled back. "Perfectly." Later that night, after the dishes were cleared, and I'd endured 2 hours of being subtly picked apart like a cheap suit, I found myself in the guest bathroom, staring at my reflection. My lipstick was still perfect, my spine still straight, but I felt like I'd been scrubbed raw. My phone buzzed. Malia. "You alive?" she asked. "Barely," I whispered. "They want a prenup." "Of course they do. What's in it?" "Don't know yet, but I'll get it." "Let me look it over when you do," she said. "And Hayley?" "Yeah?" "Don't sign anything until I say so." I didn't listen. Not exactly. 2 days later, Jessie brought over the document. He was nervous, fidgeting. "It's just a formality," he said again. "It doesn't change anything between us." I flipped through the pages slowly. It was thick, overly detailed. They weren't just protecting their money. They were protecting their name, their legacy, their image. I was a liability they were dressing up in pearls. I smiled and signed it. Then I called Malia. "Please tell me you didn't just sign that." "I did." "Hayley, but," I said, "I need you to draft something." I heard her pause. "I'm listening. I want a clause, hidden, deep enough they won't notice unless they read it cover to cover, which they won't. Something that triggers if he cheats, if the marriage ends because of him." "What kind of trigger?" "I want compensation, not just alimony. I want full liquidity of 10 years' worth of spousal support and inheritance rights like I'm blood." Malia whistled. "You're playing long game." "I'm not playing," I said. "I'm preparing." She was quiet for a second. Then, "I'll bury it in paragraph 14, subsection B. They'll never see it coming." And they didn't. I signed it with a smile. Jessie kissed my forehead and said, "See? No big deal. But buried in that mountain of legalese was my insurance, my seatbelt for the crash I saw coming. They thought I was just the girl from nowhere, lucky to marry up. A charity case with good cheekbones and no backbone. They had no idea. I don't bluff, I prepare. You weren't invited to the board dinner? Amelia asked it like she was surprised, but her tone said otherwise. She sipped her green juice, perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around the glass like she was holding a secret. No, I said, stabbing my fork into the overpriced kale salad she'd insisted we get. Apparently, it was family only. She blinked. But you are family. I smiled. That's what I thought too. She gave a soft laugh and looked away, pretending to check her phone. I didn't push it. I'd learned by now, when someone like Amelia says family, they don't mean wives, they mean blood. The truth was, I'd been married to Jessie for almost 3 years, and I still felt like a guest in their world. A well-dressed outsider they allowed into photos, but not into decisions. It started small, a charity gala where my name was left off the donor list, even though I'd written a cheque. A family portrait where I was asked to stand, on the end, just for balance. Jessie always brushed it off. They're just used to doing things a certain way. Right, a way that didn't include me. At home, Jessie was still charming, still affectionate in public. But behind closed doors he was distracted, phone always buzzing, late nights at the office. Work's crazy, he'd say, kissing my cheek with the same mouth that used to whisper dreams into my ear. Then came the party. It was a fundraiser at the O'Connor's estate. Black tie, overflowing champagne, the kind of event where people air kiss and pretend not to judge each other. I wore a sleek black dress Malia helped me pick out. Jessie didn't even notice. Glad you could make it, Sarah said at the entrance, her smile tight. We weren't sure you'd feel comfortable. I'm always comfortable around family, I said, stepping past her. Inside, the place was buzzing. Waiters floated with trays of caviar and cocktails. A string quartet played near the fireplace. I scanned the room for Jessie. He was near the bar, laughing with a woman I didn't recognise. She was tall, stunning, with a body that said Pilates and a dress that said, I know I'm being watched. Her hand lingered too long on his arm. I walked up casually. Hey, I said, slipping my hand into Jessie's. He jumped slightly. Hayley, you look great. The woman turned to me, smiling like we were old friends. You must be the wife, she said. And you are? Zara, she said. I work with Jessie. We've been pulling some late nights together. He's brilliant. I smiled. He is, and punctual too. Always comes home right after work. Jessie coughed. Zara, this is Hayley. I figured, she said, her eyes glinting. You have that classic look. Very elegant. Thanks, I said. And you have something in your... She leaned in, confused. I reached into her hair and plucked out a tiny piece of lint. There. Got it. Her smile faltered. I stayed by Jessie's side the rest of the night. Zara drifted off eventually, but not before brushing past me in the hallway. You're lucky, she said, low enough that only I could hear. Men like Jessie don't come around twice. I tilted my head. No, they usually just circle back to the same mistakes. She raised a brow, then walked away. Later, in the powder room, I opened my clutch to reapply lipstick and found a bracelet nestled inside. Gold, delicate, unmistakably expensive. I stared at it for a moment. Zara's bracelet. I walked out calmly and found her near the terrace. Hey, I said, holding it out. You must have dropped this. Found it in my bag. She blinked. Oh, that's so weird. Thank you. No problem, I said. I'm sure it just slipped in there by accident. She nodded, but her eyes flickered. Of course. I smiled and walked away, heart pounding. Back at home, Jessie was quiet. He undressed slowly, like his body was heavy. Long night, I asked. Yeah. Zara's interesting. He paused. She's just a co-worker. Didn't say she wasn't. He didn't respond, just climbed into bed and turned off the light. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The thing about being underestimated is people stop hiding their intentions. They think you're too naive to notice, too soft to do anything about it. But I noticed, and I never forget, not even a bracelet. "Why are you taking pictures of receipts?" Jessie asked, standing in the kitchen doorway, shirt half buttoned, hair still damp from the shower. I didn't flinch. I just smiled and held up my phone. "Tax season's coming." He nodded slowly, then reached for his keys. "I've got a meeting downtown. Might be late." "You were late yesterday." "Yeah, it's that time of year." I walked over and adjusted his collar like I used to do when we were dating. "Tell Zara I said hi." He froze for half a second. "What?" "You said you were meeting with her today, right?" "No, I didn't." I stepped back. "Oh, must have misunderstood." He left without another word. The second the door clicked shut, I grabbed my other phone, the one he didn't know about, and opened the app. GPS tracking showed his car headed toward Midtown, not downtown. I took a screenshot and saved it. I'd been collecting for weeks. Receipts, calendar inconsistencies, photos of him and Zara leaving the office together. A video clip from a friend who worked at the same building. Jesse with his hand on Zara's back as they walked into a hotel lobby at 11:47 p.m. I wasn't angry. I was documenting. At brunch that weekend, Amelia stirred her mimosa like it had personally offended her. "You've been quiet lately." "Just tired." She gave me a look. "You should be careful with that. Jessie doesn't like when people get suspicious." "Suspicious?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. She leaned in. "You know how this family works. We protect our own. We don't air dirty laundry." "I'm not airing anything." "Good, because dragging Jessie down with your paranoia, it's not very elegant." I smiled. "Neither is cheating." Her face hardened. "You don't have proof." I lifted my glass. "Don't need it. Not yet." She didn't respond, just picked up her phone and started texting furiously. Back home, I opened my laptop and logged into the shared financial dashboard Jessie had given me access to when we got married. It was clean. Too clean. No large withdrawals, no unusual transfers. Then I remembered something Malia once told me. If someone's hiding money, they're not doing it in plain sight. They're building walls around it. I called her. "Hey," she answered, "you sound like you're about to ask me to do something illegal." "Not illegal, just thorough." She laughed. "What are we looking for?" "Trusts, shell accounts, anything that doesn't have my name on it." "Got it. Give me a day." The next afternoon, she called back, voice clipped. "Found something." "Tell me." "He set up a trust 6 months ago. Your name's nowhere near it." I swallowed. "How much?" "High 6 figures, possibly more. He's been moving small amounts regularly. It's smart, quiet, but it's definitely a stash." "Does his family know?" "Doubt it. This looks personal." I stared out the window, watching Jessie's car pull into the driveway. "I need that in writing," I said. "Already sent it to your secure email." I hung up and walked to the kitchen just in time to see Jessie walk in. "Hey," he said, dropping his keys on the counter. "You okay?" "Fine." He kissed my cheek. "You sure? You've been acting weird." I smiled. "Just tired. You know how it is." He nodded and pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. I leaned on the counter. "So, Zara got promoted." He looked up. "What?" "She's now listed as a senior advisor. That's a big jump." He blinked. "Oh, yeah, she's good at what she does." "Did you recommend her?" He hesitated. I might have put in a word. I nodded. "Of course." He looked at me for a second longer, then walked into the living room. I followed, sat on the armrest beside him. "You know, I used to think we were a team." "We are." "No, we're not." He looked up, confused. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You've been lying, Jessie, about a lot of things." He stood up. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Then you won't mind if I ask Malia to go over our finances again?" His jaw clenched. "Why would you do that?" I stood too, facing him. "Because I'm not stupid, and I'm not scared." He stared at me, then laughed bitterly. "You're paranoid." "Maybe, but paranoid people survive." He grabbed his jacket. "I'm going out." "Of course you are." He slammed the door behind him. I sat back down, pulled out my phone and opened the folder labelled Just In Case. Dozens of screenshots, emails, photos, transcripts, proof. I wasn't ready to use it. Not yet. But I would be. Brunch was at the country club. Of course it was. The table was set for 6, but only 5 of us were there. Me, Jessie, Sarah, Amelia and Zara. Yes, Zara. She sat next to Jessie like she belonged there, like she'd always belonged there. Not across from him, not across from me. "Hayley," Sarah said, her voice coated in that familiar brand of poison sweet. "You look rested." "Thanks," I said. "I slept great." "I'm surprised you came," Amelia added, stirring her coffee. "We assumed you'd be busy." I made time. Jessie cleared his throat. "We should just get to it." I turned to him. "Get to what?" He glanced at his mother, then at Zara, who gave him a small supportive smile. My stomach didn't twist, my hands didn't shake. I already knew. "I've filed for divorce," Jessie said. The words landed like a dull thud. Everyone looked at me, waiting for a scene. I blinked once. "Over eggs?" Sarah set down her fork. "This protects our family. You understand, dear?" Jessie nodded. "It's just a formality." I reached into my handbag and pulled out a manila folder. "Then I assume you've reviewed the prenup?" Zara tilted her head. "What prenup?" Sarah's smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" I opened the folder and slid a set of documents across the table. "This is a copy of the agreement I signed, paragraph 14, subsection B. You should read it." Jessie picked it up, flipping through the pages like he was seeing them for the first time. Because he was. Zara leaned over his shoulder. "What is this?" Malia walked in right on cue, heels clicking against the marble floor. She wore a power suit and a look that could kill. "Sorry I'm late," she said. "Traffic." Sarah's face turned to stone. "Who is this?" "My attorney," I said, "and best friend." Malia sat next to me, pulled out her own copy of the prenup and laid it flat on the table. "As per clause 14b," she began, "if the marriage dissolves due to infidelity on Jessie's part, Hayley is entitled to full liquidity compensation equivalent to 10 years of spousal support, plus inheritance rights equal to a direct blood heir." Silence. Zara's face drained of colour. "Wait, what?" Jessie dropped the papers. "This wasn't in the version I saw." Malia smiled. "That's because you didn't read it. Your lawyer didn't either, but it's notarized, signed, and legally binding." Sarah's voice turned sharp. "This is absurd. We'll fight it." "You're welcome to," Malia said. "But we've already filed a motion with the court. You'll lose." Amelia looked at me like I'd just set the table on fire. "You've destroyed everything. For what? Money?" I turned to her. "No, for recognition." Jessie stood, pacing. "You tricked me." "No," I said. "I protected myself." Zara pushed back her chair. "This is insane. You're just bitter." I looked at her, calm. "You left your bracelet in my purse. Remember that?" Her eyes widened. "I knew from that moment. You wanted a reaction, you got one." Sarah stood. "This isn't over." "It is," Malia said, rising beside me. "You just didn't see it coming." We left them there, sitting in their curated little world, choking on their own entitlement. Outside, the sun was blinding. Malia handed me her sunglasses. "How do you feel?" "Like I just flipped the board." She smiled. "Good. Now let's burn the rule book." Sarah's voice cracked for the first time in the 5 years I'd known her. This clause is outrageous." She stood in the centre of Jessie's office, waving the prenup like it was a piece of garbage. Her pearls rattled against her collarbone, and for once her perfect posture looked like it might collapse. Jessie sat on the edge of his desk, pale, silent. Zara was nowhere to be seen. She'd left the brunch in a flurry of fake coughs and a muttered excuse about needing air. Malia crossed her arms and leaned against the bookshelf like she owned the room. "It's not outrageous, it's legal, and you signed it." "You tricked us," Sarah hissed. "No," I said calmly. I protected myself. You gave me a contract. I signed it. You should have read it. Jessie finally spoke. You buried it. I turned to him. You think your family didn't bury clauses in there first? You think I didn't notice the part about forfeiting inheritance rights unless I produced a child within 5 years? Or the clause that required I maintain a public image consistent with O'Connor values? Malia smirked. You people love burying things. You just don't expect anyone to dig. Sarah's face flushed. You'll never get away with this. We'll challenge it. Go ahead, Malia said. We've already filed with the court. Judge Harris is reviewing it now. Jessie rubbed his forehead. This is going to ruin me. No, I said. Your choices ruined you. I just made sure I wouldn't go down with you. The room fell quiet. Sarah looked like she was about to lunge across the desk. Instead, she turned and stormed out, heels clicking like gunshots against the floor. Jessie looked up at me, eyes glassy. You were waiting for this. No, I said. I was hoping I wouldn't need it. He swallowed hard. You don't have to go through with it. We can settle, quietly. Malia raised an eyebrow. You mean pay her less than she's owed so your reputation survives? He ignored her, staring at me. Hayley, please, this doesn't have to be war. I stepped closer. You filed for divorce while sitting next to the woman you cheated with. You didn't even have the decency to lie about it well. You wanted a clean break. You thought I'd walk away with nothing. He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. I walked into this family with nothing but love and good intentions. You all treated me like I was disposable. So no, Jessie, this isn't war. This is consequence. He looked down at his hands. Malia tapped her phone. We'll expect the first transfer within 30 days. If not, we'll proceed with asset seizure. You've already been served notice. As we turned to leave, Amelia appeared in the doorway. You're proud of this? She asked me. I paused. No, but I'm not ashamed either. You've destroyed our family. I tilted my head. Your family was already rotting. I just pulled back the curtain. She stepped forward, eyes sharp. You could have walked away quietly. You didn't have to humiliate us. You're right, I said, but you didn't have to humiliate me for 5 years either. She shook her head. You'll never be one of us. Good, I said. That was the point. Back in the car, Malia exhaled like she'd been holding her breath the entire time. God, that was satisfying. I didn't answer. She glanced at me. You okay? I don't know, I said. I thought I'd feel more. You will, she said. Give it time. Right now, you're still in it. We pulled up to my place. I got out, walked up the steps, and paused with my hand on the doorknob. Inside, everything was the same. The couch we picked together, the photo from our honeymoon still hanging on the wall, the vase Sarah gave us as a wedding gift, empty. I walked straight to the closet and pulled out a box I hadn't touched in years. Letters from my mum, old photos, the necklace Travis gave me the day I graduated. I sat on the floor and opened one of the envelopes. My mum's handwriting was shaky, but warm. You don't owe anyone your silence, Hayley. If they try to make you small, remember who raised you. I smiled, tears finally coming. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Amelia. I hope it was worth it. None of us will recover from this. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back. I didn't want revenge. I wanted respect. You gave me neither, so I took both. And I hit send. Sarah showed up at my door in pearls and panic. I opened it before she could knock twice. We need to talk, she said, stepping inside like she still owned the air in every room. I didn't offer her a seat. She looked around, nose wrinkling slightly. You're really staying here? It's my home. She turned to face me. This can't go public. The clause, the payout, the divorce, none of it. It'll ruin everything. I leaned against the doorframe. You mean it'll ruin your name? She crossed her arms. We're willing to offer a settlement, quiet, generous. I already have a settlement, court approved. Her jaw clenched. You don't understand what you're doing. No, Sarah, you don't understand who you married your son to. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. I'm not going to be your family's dirty little secret. I'm not going to disappear just because you're uncomfortable." "You'll regret this," she said quietly. I already regretted staying silent for 5 years. She stared at me for a long moment, then turned on her heel and left without another word. The next day, Jesse called. "I'm sorry," he said, voice low. "I didn't think it would get this far." "You didn't think I'd fight back?" He sighed. "Zara's gone. She took a leave. HR's involved now." "Not my problem. I'm trying to fix this." "You're trying to save face." He didn't deny it. "I'll do interviews," he said. "Say it was mutual, that we grew apart." "You'll say nothing," I said. "You'll stick to the court-approved script and pay what you owe." Silence. "You really hate me, don't you?" "No," I said. "I just finally see you." That week the motions went public. The prenup clause made headlines in legal circles. A few journalists reached out. I ignored the first 3. The 4th one got a reply. She was young, sharp, and smelled blood in the water. "I'm not looking to trash anyone," I told her over coffee, "but I think women should know how to protect themselves." She nodded, recorder already running. "Can I ask why you stayed so long?" I smiled. "Because I wanted to believe love could outlast power. I was wrong." The article dropped 2 days later. It didn't name names, but everyone knew. The O'Connors were suddenly very quiet. That night, Travis called. "I saw the piece." "Yeah?" "You sounded like Mum." I laughed. "That's a compliment." He paused. "You done now?" "What do you mean?" "You've won, Hales. Know when to walk away." I looked out the window. The O'Connors' world was unravelling. Creditors were circling. Zara's ethics complaint was under review. Jesse's company shares dropped after the board heard about the trust fund he tried to hide, and yet I didn't feel done. "I don't know," I said. "Be careful," he said. "Revenge burns clean, but it still leaves smoke." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. The next morning, I got a call from a private number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Amelia. "I hope you're happy. Dad's health is slipping, and Mum's barely holding it together. You've turned this into a circus. If you ever cared about this family, you'll stop now." I deleted it. Then I sent another anonymous tip to the journalist about the shell companies, the offshore accounts, the way Sarah funneled money through charities to avoid taxes. I didn't need to burn the house down. I just needed to show the matches were always in their hands. The fallout came fast after that. A quiet audit turned into a full investigation. Invitations to galas stopped arriving. Their name, once whispered with reverence, now came with side eyes and questions. I stayed silent. Until I didn't. Malia and I launched our firm that month, Quinn and Hunter Legal Trusts. We specialised in protective clauses for women entering high-value marriages. Our first client was a woman who looked a lot like me 5 years ago, nervous, in love, unsure. I handed her a pen. "You don't need to expect betrayal, just prepare for it." She signed with steady hands, and I finally exhaled. Jessie tried to sell the lake house in secret. I found out on a Tuesday. Malia called while I was slicing strawberries in my kitchen. "He's moving assets," she said. "Fast. The lake house is already in escrow." I set the knife down. "That house is covered under the freeze order." "Not if he claims it was a personal liquidation before the clause was enforced. He's trying to skip around the timeline." I wiped my hands on a dish towel. "Then we go to court." "Already filed the injunction." 3 days later, we were back in the same courtroom where the prenup had been validated. Jessie sat with a new lawyer, someone younger, slicker, desperate. He didn't look at me once. The judge flipped through the documents, glasses perched low on his nose. "You attempted to transfer this property knowing full well it was under legal review," he said to Jessie. "You're either careless or arrogant, possibly both." Jessie's lawyer stood. "Your Honour, my client was unaware." "Sit down," the judge said, not even looking up. He turned to me. "Mrs. O'Connor?" "Just Haley," I said. He nodded. "Haley, the clause stands. The property is yours as part of the settlement. Any further attempts to liquidate assets will be considered contempt." I nodded once. Understood. Jesse finally looked at me as I walked out of the courtroom. His face was blank, but his eyes were glassy. He mouthed something. I didn't stop to read it. That weekend, the O'Connors hosted their annual gala, or tried to. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I knew the time, the place, the dress code. I also knew the creditors had been waiting for the right moment to strike. I didn't go to watch the wreckage. I didn't need to. Instead, I sat with Malia in our new office, sipping wine while our phones buzzed with updates. Creditors served them mid-toast, she said, scrolling. Zara almost fainted. I raised my glass. Cheers. Zara's name popped up next on my screen, a forwarded article from a business blog. Senior Advisor Zara Hill, under investigation for workplace misconduct. Malia clicked it open. Looks like someone found the HR complaints. She'll land on her feet, I said. People like her always do, but not in this town. The next day, I announced our firm's official launch on social media. The post was simple. Quinn and Hunter Legal Trusts, built by women, for women, because protection isn't paranoia, it's power. It went viral within hours. I didn't check the comments, I didn't need validation, but I did get a message from Amelia. I hope it was worth it. None of us will recover from this. I stared at the screen for a while, then I typed, "You were never supposed to." I didn't send it. Instead, I powered off my phone and walked outside. The evening air was cool, the sky streaked with orange and pink. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who walked into that estate with hope in her heart and a ring on her finger. She was gone. But the woman who replaced her? She didn't beg. She didn't break. She built. The tyres crunched over gravel as I pulled into the driveway of the house I grew up in. The paint was faded, the porch sagged a little, and the wind chimes still clinked like they had something to say. Travis was already outside, leaning against the railing with a beer in one hand and a smirk on his face. "You're late," he said. "I'm not," I replied, stepping out of the car. "You're just early." He handed me a beer. "You look different." "Is that your way of saying I look tired?" "No, it's my way of saying you look like someone who just torched a dynasty." I laughed and clinked my bottle against his. "Cheers to that." We sat on the porch, watching the sun dip low behind the trees. It smelled like cut grass and dust. I hadn't realised how much I missed it. "So," he said after a long silence, "was it worth it?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I took a sip and looked out at the field where we used to play tag until our legs gave out. "I didn't get peace," I said, "but I got power, and I think I needed that more." He nodded. "You always wanted to prove them wrong." "They made it easy." We sat in silence again, the kind that only exists between people who've known each other their whole lives. "I'm turning this place into something," I said finally. He looked over. "What do you mean?" "A shelter. For women, the kind who get talked over, pushed out, told to stay quiet. I've got the funding, just need permits and a contractor who won't ghost me." He whistled. "That's big." "It's necessary," he smiled. "Mum would have liked that." "I think so too." The next morning I met with the contractor on site. He was gruff but honest and didn't blink when I told him I wanted the upstairs converted into private rooms and the garage turned into a legal aid office. "You're not messing around," he said. "No," I said. "I don't do that anymore." After he left, I walked through the house slowly. The wallpaper in the hallway was still peeling. The kitchen sink still dripped, but the bones were good. Just needed care. I stopped in my old bedroom. The walls were bare now, but I could still see the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck to the ceiling as a kid. I sat on the floor and pulled out the folder Malia had given me. Notes, plans, grant applications. There was a knock on the doorframe. I looked up. Amelia stood there. "How did you find me?" "I asked your brother." I stood. "You're not welcome here." "I know," she said. "I just wanted to say something." I waited. "You were right," she said quietly. "About all of it. About us. About Jessie." I crossed my arms. That doesn't change anything. I'm not here to change anything. I wanted you to know I admired it, what you did, even if I hated it. I blinked. You admired it. You walked into our world and beat us at our own game, with a smile. That takes guts. I didn't respond. She took a step back. I won't bother you again. Amelia, I said, stopping her. Why now? She hesitated. Because I thought we were better than we were, and you proved we weren't. I nodded once. Take care of yourself. You too. She left without another word. Later that afternoon, I stood in front of the house again, clipboard in hand, watching as the first crew truck pulled up. A young woman stepped out of the passenger side. She looked nervous, maybe 22, holding a hard hat too big for her head. You the owner? She asked. I am. She smiled. It's cool what you're doing here. Thanks, I said. You're part of the crew. Intern, first project. I handed her the clipboard. Then let's get to work. As the team began unloading tools and supplies, I stepped back and looked at the house one more time. They told me revenge was petty. But no, revenge was precise. And now I build from the ashes.